So just find a comfortable posture. As comfortable as you could. And just take a bit of time to just relax your body. As your body relaxes, your body feels calm. As your body feels calm, your mind becomes calm. So first of all, to establish present moment awareness, just bring awareness to this moment, opening the door of your heart to this moment. And develop contentment. Just content being here is good enough. Have no any expectation. The fact that we have the opportunity to sit here together with everyone is good enough. Just happy to be here. As your mind becomes peaceful, you can start to bring your awareness onto your breath. Just simply watching your breath, breathing in and breathing out.